Good morning, everyone. This is Chris on IMTN Worldwide Radio. This is Around the ATL Side Notes on very early Thursday morning. I usually don't do morning anything, but today I had to. So this is not going to be a usual show, mostly because I won't be doing a long episode right here of Side Notes. If you saw the title, it just simply says competition and consistency. So there's two things I want to discuss this morning. One, I'm going to talk about the Giannis interview from last night after the Bucks got eliminated from the playoffs. And then I'm going to talk about Kevin Huerter. And there's reasons why I'm talking about both. But before I do get started, please make sure if you do get a chance to watch this, subscribe to the YouTube of IMTN Worldwide Radio. I really would appreciate that. We talk all Atlanta sports and Georgia sports on Around the ATL. So if you've never listened to Around the ATL before, you can listen on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Blog Talk Radio, Odyssey. You can call up Alexa and listen to the show. Please do so. Listen to past episodes. I will be posting the most recent episodes, 122, 123, and last night's 124, which was the NFL draft show for the Atlanta Falcons. I'll be posting those soon. I haven't gotten to it yet. I've been pretty behind. I work secularly, been in the hospital, doctors a lot. Even last night, I was borderline in pain the whole show, but I knocked it out. But if you didn't get a chance to listen to it on the podcast version, episodes 122 and 123 featuring Bob Rathman of Bally Sports, who does the play-by-play for the Atlanta Hawks, was on the show last Thursday, along with Steve Holman, the voice of the Hawks, on 92.9 The Game. Those are longtime broadcasters for the Atlanta Hawks. If you love the Atlanta Hawks, you should love those guys. They are veterans. They love the team. They love the city of Atlanta. You know, Bob Rathman's been doing Hawks games since 1996. You would think you would appreciate anything he says about the Hawks, right? And Steve Holman has been doing Hawks games for 38 years. Both of them have been on the show multiple times. We usually have them on at least once a year, sometimes more than that, depending on the situation, beginning of the year and at the end of the year. This past season, we weren't able to get them on at the beginning of the year because I just wasn't able to. A lot of stuff was happening. But last Thursday, at the end of the regular season, we were able to have both of them on. And they talked, a lot about the Hawks season, that Miami game, of course, the Boston series. Bob and I had a real great discussion about journalistic integrity. Go watch that episode 123. Start at the 18-minute mark if you don't want to watch the whole episode. But he said a lot of really, really important things. He was very passionate about that discussion because just go watch it, episode 123. So go subscribe to the IMTN Worldwide Radio page. Appreciate that. You can also visit the new website that I just created half a day ago, imtnworldwideradio.com. Here, I'll go ahead and post that up real quick before I get started. And follow on Facebook or Instagram, IMTN Worldwide Radio. And also on Twitter, Intellect ATL. My co-host Jordan Jackson is Jordan23 ATL. I am really tired. I'm trying to find it. There it is. If you go to that website right there, you'll see everything there as well. So that all being said, let's talk about last night. So let's talk about competition. Okay, that's the first title of today's show this morning. Um, I watched that interview of Giannis, and the reason I'm talking about this morning because he was asked a question in regards to whether or not he feels this season was a failure or not, and he got really, what's the word I'm looking for? Not disgruntled, I guess, but irritated might be a better word. And apparently, he was asked this question by the same reporter last year. Did you feel that this season it was a failure? Okay, and how he approached that question was to give an analogy using the secular world in regards to people having employment. And you get a job, which most of us have. We have a job of some sort, right? Or you have your own business. Either way, you're taking care of your family, correct? You're paying expenses, you're taking care of the wife, you're taking care of your kids, right? But let's say if it's a job, it's a secular employment job, and you go in for a promotion and you don't get the promotion, but you're still employed. Is that a failure? Still employed, still earning income, right? But is that a failure that you're taking care of your kids, you're taking care of your wife, you're doing what you need to do, things of that nature? No, it's not a failure. Might be disappointing, but there's always next year. And the reason I bring this up is because for years now, I've used the analogy of my own secular life in regards to describing things like coaching or um, competition, management of people that are under you, training, things of that nature. And I've done it in great detail. I won't do it this morning necessarily. You have to go watch some of my past shows. Actually, some of the shows that you might want to go watch, I'll do that later. I'll pull them up in a second. But this is what I responded to on the post. It was a Bleacher Report post on Instagram, and this was my response to it. Okay, because I wanted just people to hear it. Because sometimes people need to hear it to feel it. You know what I'm saying? So this is what I responded to. I'm gonna read it from the actual post that I did. This is where people really need to get it together. The difficulty of playing at a superstar level in the NBA. Not many can do that. So to announce a whole career because a player didn't win a ring and call them a failure has always been absurd. I threw that in there extra too because you always have the people who, oh, well, they didn't get a ring. Dominique's career is a failure. He has a statue in front of State Farm Arena. Failure? Charles Barkley? Failure? One of the best of all time? He's in the Hall of Fame as well, just like Neek. Failure? I don't think so. So let's see, where am I at? You can say that they didn't win a ring. That's a fact. But they played for a long time, which isn't always a sure bet. We know that for a fact. Odin, right? Some became Hall of Fame players. Aforementioned a couple of players already. Allen Iverson is another one. He's a failure too, right? Some became Hall of Fame players. Also very hard to do. Earn millions playing a game. Not many people can say they've earned millions playing a game. Video game people, okay, cool, yeah. But other than that, it's hard to get into a sport and actually earn a living and then earn millions over a period of time. Multi millions, some billions now, right? It's not easy. A player that gets drafted or signs as an undrafted free agent accomplish something that most will never do. So you have the people who get drafted, right? But you got a lot of people who don't get drafted. How many people go into the draft each year? Right? Think about that over however many years a draft has been in any sport. What is the percentage of people who actually have a legit shot of actually being drafted into a professional league of some sort? And then after that, are you signing as an undrafted free agent, right? Are you good enough to do that, right? Well, a player that gets drafted or signs as an undrafted free agent accomplishes something that most will never do. Wear an NBA uniform. I'm using NBA again. Have their name called in the starting lineup. Names flashing in the lights, right? and actually play in front of fans globally. Remember, the NBA is a global stage. Everybody on the planet Earth is watching an NBA game at any given time, right? Got Matt out there in Australia watching Hawks games. He's been a Hawks fan forever. Matthew Blanche. You know what I'm saying? I'm just calling him out because I know him, right? So let's see, where am I at? If they only play one season or average 5 points a game, yes, that's disappointing. But is it still a failure? Now, in certain cases, it's really, really, really disappointing, right? But is it a failure? They got drafted. They did play. Some players get hurt, and that's the end of their career, type of a deal, right? That's disappointing. Is it a failure? They still play. They're in the uniform. They got a contract, got some money, right? They did something that a lot of other people didn't do. Is it major disappointing? Yes, but is it a failure? The only time, okay, I'm gonna segue real quick. The only time I would say it's a failure is when a player does something that isn't sports related that causes them to not be in the game. Drugs, violence, all that kind of good stuff. Now that's a failure because that's something that was preventable at the end of the day. Decisions matter, right? So in those cases, I would say, yeah, it's a failure of a career if they themselves took themselves out of that career. Going to jail, prison, yeah, okay, that's a failure. Now, I've used the secular analogy for years. All of us that work to feed our families by being employed are winning. Even if we don't get that raise we wanted one year or get the promotion we wanted one year, there is always next year. Okay. So that's what I wanted to mention in regards to just competition. You know, everybody knows that in sports you can win or you can lose, but you're in it, right? That's why there's multiple games in a season. You play multiple games in the regular season to qualify for the playoffs. You play in the playoffs to try to advance to get to the championship. You get to the championship, you're trying to win the championship. And if you don't win the championship, you got to try again next year. And then it's a matter of how long can you keep yourself together to play as many years as you can to have a legit shot. And again, even with all that you can do, you still might not win it. Think about how many Hall of Fame players did not win a championship. Karl Malone, John Stockton, Reggie Miller, Allen Iverson. We can go on about that list, right? Dominique Wilkins, right? We can go through our sports. Matt Ryan, Leo Jump. We can keep going, right? Just in Atlanta sports history, much less anybody else, right? But they have accomplishments. You can't erase a whole 2 decades of a player's career as far as their playing time and things of that nature and things that they accomplished and say that they were a failure. Because otherwise, why are they even doing it at all? Chris Paul is going to go down as one of the best point guards of all time, but he didn't win a championship. I don't think you can say that's a failure. You see what I'm saying? Would Giannis's career be a failure if he hadn't won that championship a couple years ago? He's going down as one of the greatest forwards of all time. No holds barred, no matter what. If he retired today, he could get into the Hall of Fame right now, right? More than likely, he'd be voted in. Without that championship, would he be a failure though? The Greek Freak, a failure? How he's expanded his game year after year and gotten better and better and better and better and better, but he's a failure because he didn't win a championship. If that had happened, I'm just throwing it out. And think about whoever your favorite player is that doesn't have a championship. Do you really view them as a failure? Like you really have to say that out loud, and it doesn't make sense. Type of a deal. Does it? You throw it on the wall. Does it stick, or does it? You know. So I wanted to mention that this morning. Now, the second thing I wanted to talk about today, and then this is for the Atlanta fans again, the Atlanta Hawks fans specifically. Okay. Now, about a year ago, not a year ago, but months ago, I did a show describing the career of Kevin here in Atlanta as opposed to what he was doing in Sacramento. Now, if people don't know, Kevin Huerter was drafted by the Atlanta Hawks. He played 4 seasons, 3 of those seasons, he was averaging 12 points a game. The 2020 season, he had a great game against Philly, got him a contract extension. Okay. And I said, hey, that's great, but we're going to need more than 12 points a game that next season now. He's a shooter. He's a shooting guard. He's a shooting guard starting in the NBA, getting all the shots. We need him to do more. He averaged 12 points a game again, 2021 season. And in that Miami series that the Hawks played in, where the whole team was hurt, and so they were able to concentrate on Trey and lock him down, Miami Heat did, did Kevin really help Hunter out? Because Hunter was having a whale of a series. And I still say to this day, if Kevin had just chipped in just a little bit, the Hawks might have got to the second round. Now, whatever happened in the second round, whatever. But here's what I did. So because, again, he went to Sacramento. He was traded. And now all of a sudden he's averaging 15 points a game and the crowd and, and everything. And he's having a better season than he had the years before. And one of the first things I said to remind people, he's in an actual offense now with a coach that's actually better. This is when, at the end of the day, when Nate was still here, we weren't running anything, just standing around behind the 3-point line. If you've seen any of my shows, I'm not going to regurgitate that right now. But even with the 15 points a game, that's 3 points more a game average, and that's credible. It's still a matter of he should still be doing better than that. And then it's the consistency part. He's averaging these games 15 points a game, and so he's had some good games, 25-point game here, 28-point game there. But I said, well, he did that too in Atlanta, and I proved it by breaking down 34 games of the 2021 season. And I broke it down game by game. I did the first 20 games of the regular season, and then I picked 14 games that the Hawks had lost by 13 or less and said, if we had gotten his average in some of these games, we wouldn't have ended the season in the play-in and having to play 2 play-in games just to get into the playoffs. We would have avoided that if our shooting guard had given us something. Because, again, there's a narrative that with Kevin not being here, this season here was a disaster because of him not being here. That he's having a world-class MVP season there in Sacramento. That he's the one who got this purple light going off every night. That wasn't true. And the other reason I'm bringing this up is because what he's done in this series against the Golden State Warriors. Because if he was doing what he needed to be able to do against Golden State, they wouldn't be about to get eliminated right now. He was benched last night. If anybody watched the game, you didn't see him. He played 16 minutes last night. He had 9 points last night. Well, I'm going to get into that in a second because what I initially was what I was talking about from yesterday is that as of right now, the guy who everybody says is supposed to be here and he should be here, he would be helping us out. The playoffs also matter, guys. Not just the regular season, but the playoffs matter too. As of right now, Kevin Huerter is 4 for 25 from 3 in the playoffs. Now, someone try to tell me or explain to me how that's a positive. And also tell me, how is that a good shooting percentage? 4 for 25 from 3. Tell me how that's a good thing. Tell me how that's helping the team win in the playoffs against the world champions. The team haven't been in the playoffs in 17 years. You're finally in. Crowd is excited. Yeah, woo. Kevin is a shooting guard. Need Kevin to shoot. By the way, another segue. I watched on the NBA.com site. I watched the game highlight for that game. There's a particular sequence there where I said also he needs to be able to play better defense. And like I've been saying, especially all of the 2021 season, there's times where Kevin has no clue where he's supposed to be. He's flailing around, literally. Can't be attached to his man. It happens way too much. And there's a clip. If you go to the NBA.com site and watch the game replay, the recap of that game, there's a clip of you seeing that, and probably one of the reasons he got benched. Besides the fact he wasn't hitting on nothing, go watch that because it's startling. Okay, but that's what was happening in Atlanta last year. But go watch that. So this is what I had posted yesterday. 4 for 25 from three in the playoffs. Y'all tried to tell me Kevin was the best player in the NBA. Y'all didn't care he didn't score in the Miami series. I'll get into that in a little bit. You made excuses about that. But what about now? Folks love creating narratives that are not true. Right now, in this Golden State versus Sacramento series, he has scored less than double digits 3 out of the 5 games. How is that helping that team win? They were up 2-0. They're down 3-2. That does matter. It does matter about the playoffs. It does. Now, the response I got from my man Michael Smith was basically saying, well, he's still a good player. No one said he was best in the league. Y'all love to, so love to hate a player that says that we can have him off the bench and things of this nature. And some of y'all mainly saying, coaching matters and blah, blah, blah. Dude is still 6'7", and he even if he's missing, you got to get out on him. Even if he's still missing. See, again, the thing of it, the problem with that is that that's not exactly true. Remember the clip of Draymond not wanting to guard Russell out there because he ain't hitting on nothing? You don't have to guard somebody if you know they ain't hitting on nothing. And you can concentrate on someone else. Right? Just saying, it's the principle of it all. And eventually he got benched. Now, my response to that particular post was this. So, no, that's false. Tons of people, especially Atlanta Hawks fans, have said that, shoot, Kevin's the be-all to be-all. Look what he's doing in Sacramento right now. He's blowing up. He's doing all this and that. He should still be an Atlanta Hawk. Kevin Huerter is the worst trade over Dominique being traded. That's what was being said in Atlanta. There's post galore to show that and prove that. That's what people were saying. He's better than Larry Bird. Many people weren't saying he was better than Larry Bird, but they might as well have been for the hoopla and just the sheer gumption of it all. His trade was worse than the Dominique trade. That was said a whole heck of a lot. I prove that another time. That's in black and white. But I said that. Now, I said the regular season, he finally scored more than 12 points a game by getting 15 points a game. I'm talking about the 2022 season, right? But it matters when you don't do anything in the playoffs. He had that one game against Philly. He dropped that 27. And like I said, at the end of the day, it was wow, boom, there it is. And again, if that's the reason he got that extension, okay, so fine, be it. But see, after that Philly game, he didn't play well the rest of that playoffs, if anybody remembers. Against Milwaukee, who I'm talking about right now. Okay? We were 2 games away from going to the finals. Trey gets hurt. But if Kevin was hitting on something, we might have been able to subsidize Trey, but Kevin wasn't really hitting. And like I said, that next season, that 2021 season, we needed Kevin to hit on some shots on a regular basis. If you go watch that video that I did on Kevin Huerter on IMTN Worldwide Radio on YouTube, let me see if I can pull up the name of it without messing up the show here. The title of that video is Around the ATL Side Notes, Why Now, Why Not Last Season, Kevin Huerter. I did that show 5 months ago, okay? Go watch that. I break down 34 separate games. And not only did I put Kevin Huerter's games in there, I put trades and John's production in each of those games to show you what people were doing. So he was in the starting lineup along with those 2 other guys. Sometimes I'll throw in Hunter's numbers, which were lots of times were non-existent. I'll throw in Gallo in there sometimes and Bogey just to show you what some of the other players did in those games. There was one game where I think Kevin scored like 2 or 5 points or whatever. Bogey had 27. Gallo had 26. And we lost the game anyway because Kevin didn't even score his average of 12. There's a lot of games that we had no business losing in that 2021 season, despite all the other foolery. If Kevin was just hitting his shots. He was getting the shots. See, again, it'd be a matter of be different if he was only getting 4 or 5 shots a night or something like that. As a shooting guard, though, if you're getting 10 or 12 shots a night, where's the efficiency of having that 6 for 10 night and hitting 3 or 6 from 3 or 5 or 6 from 3 or whatever it is? If you're a sharp shooter, if that's the effervescence of that, right? That was my whole point. At a certain point, we needed that. Why can't we have that? Why can't we demand better from our players? This is why I've done the Hunter videos over the last couple of weeks. We were depending on these guys. But anyway, going back to Kevin. So I said it matters when you don't do anything in the playoffs. He had that one game against Philly. Rest of that playoff run, he did not shoot well. 21 playoffs against the Miami Heat, which is a year ago now. And we all know the situation with the Miami Heat series. John was banged up bad, but he played anyway. Bogey was hurt. We had other players who weren't even playing, right? And so they were able to concentrate and negate Trey altogether, pretty much, because they didn't have to worry about nobody else. They didn't have to worry about Kevin. Hunter was going off. They couldn't stop him, but that's just one player. If you didn't have anything else coming from anybody else, didn't matter. They won that series in 5 games. Here's what Kevin Huerter did in that Miami series. And now, again, playoffs matter. You play the regular season to qualify for the playoffs. You get into the playoffs to be able to advance to try to get to the championship game. You win the championship, right? In that Miami series, Kevin scored 12 points, 4 points, 13 points, 9 points, and 8 points in 5 games. How is that a positive? And why all of a sudden would people say, oh, well, that don't matter? Like, say that out loud. It don't matter that Kevin scored more than his average once, which is 13 points in a game, in a playoff game, as the shooting guard starting with his ability, which I've said. And by the way, let me backtrack just a little bit. For years, I was one of the biggest proponents of Red Mamba. I never called him Red Velvet. From his draft all the way through up until last year, he was one of my biggest guys that I talked about. I got articles. I talked about him on my radio show plenty of times. It's all documented. When everybody else wanted to hate on him and stuff, I said, nah, he's going to be our shooting guard forever. He's going to be the guy. He could do it all. He could do this. He could do that. But hoping he can do it and wanting him to do it and him doing it is 2 different things. And eventually, that's what it kind of came down to. He should be a 20-point scorer in the NBA. Just his shot alone gives him that ability. Along with some things, so he can get his own shot. Sometimes there's elements of him being able to get his own shot and things of that nature when he's aggressive and all that kind of good stuff. But at the end of the day, his shot is his shot. But if it's not hitting, then it's okay. Now we got to look at everything else. Is he even playing any kind of semblance of defense? No, not really. No, he's never attached to his guy. You're going to score on Kevin Huerter, winning whenever you want to. That's a problem. Now we can say, oh, what about everybody else, Chris? Yeah, that's everybody else was playing bad defense last year too. But again, we needed him to buck up a little bit. And like I said, for me, I've always said, that team was never taught no defense. All those young guys from the jump, defense was never important. It was never important in the coaching staff to teach them how to do it, to make sure that they knew where they were supposed to be. Again, we overhelp, we can't switch, we can't rotate. It's been a problem. And to try to erase all of that in 20 games is going to be hard. And they've done a little bit of job of that. You can see it. You saw it in those 20 games after the coaching change. You saw some elements that got better to an extent. Effort got better, and then techniques got better. They were watching film. You could tell because certain things stopped happening as much. They're talking more. They're just knowing where you're supposed to be, which another segue, go look at that last play of the Bucks Miami series and the switching that Miami Heat did. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit too. Okay. But let's finish this up with Huerter. He scored 12, 4, 13, 9, and 8 points in that Miami series. And now in this series against the defending world champion Golden State Warriors, he scored less than double figures 3 times already and then got benched last night because he wasn't helping the team. See, because the goal is to win the game, correct? Am I wrong? Does it not matter to win the game? And you got to have the best people out there that's helping you win. Monk was out there hitting shots. Let me see what Monk scored last night. I'm gonna pull it up. I'm gonna try to pull this up and not mess up anything. I didn't plan on doing this morning, but Golden State box score. That's Golden State. I can't see. I don't have my glasses this morning. Monk played 29 minutes at 21 points. Kevin 16 minutes, 9 points. He was 1 for 4 from 3. That's 25%. He was 4 for 10 from the floor. Monk got in there. I mean, well, Monk didn't have a good shooting night, but he had 21 points. At the end of the day, he's a threat. He's more of a threat than Kevin has been. That matters at a certain point. You got to give your team the best shot to win the game. They're in the playoffs. They're in the playoffs for the first time in 17 years. They didn't need Kevin not having a good series. They got him in a trade. And he's the shooting guard. They needed more. They needed more than 2 points, 9 points, whatever it is. I think 5 points the other night or whatever. They needed more. They needed his average. They needed 15 points a game for every game or more. They needed him to be 4 for 25 is not a threat from 3. That's not, oh, I need to guard Kevin. 4 for 25, if he's taking 25 threes, if he was hitting 15 for 25, shoot, you got to double Kevin from 3. You got to get him off that line. 4 for 25, not so much. That's just numbers. That's the game. It matters when you're not hitting your shots and you're supposed to be a shot maker, correct? 34 games in the 2021 season I broke down. In those 34 games, Kevin did have some 28-point games and 25-point games here and there, but many times than not, it was 12 points or less, single digits. He was 1 for 7 from 3 a lot of times in those games. Simply being the threat, you can't be a decoy unless you're actually hitting the shots on a regular basis. Consistency matters. That's just a fact, Jack, right? So go look at that video. Like I said, it's called on IMTN Worldwide Radio on YouTube. Go watch. I'll pull it up again. Side notes, why now? Why not last season, Kevin Huerter? Now, the other video that I was going to mention that talked about like the secular side of things is called Leadership, Discipline, and Winning. I did that about 5 months ago as well. It's on the IMTN Worldwide Radio page. You might also want to look at, do you want to win or almost win? I did that about 3 months ago. I did a video that dictated the article that I wrote last December, I believe. If you go watch that, that's on Hawks basketball on around the ATL side notes. That's what it's labeled. So go watch those shows for sure. And also the most recent shows, episode 122 and 123, featuring Bob Rathman and Steve Holman of the Atlanta Hawks broadcast team. We had some great interviews last week. We talked about, like I said, the upcoming Celtics series, why Bob feels that we did have a chance, and why I told him also that I felt we have a chance, mostly because we were healthy. We have a better bench, and you do have Murray in the lineup who can get his own shot and hit shots on a regular basis and do other stuff like rebound and steal the ball sometimes and other stuff that he can do. So we talked about all that, but we also talked about journalistic integrity. You can't just keep saying stuff without no consequence. It's crazy the things that have been said over the last month or so, especially about Trae Young, and it's just not true. and people just keep rolling with it, keep saying the same stuff over and over again, even if they're an Atlanta broadcast person or pundit or 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 producer or radio personality, whatever. They're saying these things as if it's fact, and it's not. And Bob was pretty upset about it. Go watch that interview. It's episode 123. Steve Holman, of course, he's the OG. He says what's on his mind. So he says some stuff that might be controversial. Not really, but he's always fun in talking with us, and they like being on the show. So that's always a good thing when we're able to get them on. Definitely watch that whole interview with Bob Rathman because he did say some real cool stuff about around the ATL at the very end. So again, it's all about competition. It's all about being competitive. It's all about being consistent. It's just the principle of it all. You can't keep creating narratives that are really not true. Kevin was a cool player here. Like I said, I backed and supported him for a long time until that last season because we really needed more than 12 points a game. The average in a game is the number that you're getting, or you're getting it less. It's usually not that you're getting it higher. Because if you are getting higher, your average is higher. You're usually just hitting that 12 points and making less than that to stay at 12 points. If you were scoring more, you're at 18 points, 19, 20 points a game, 21 points a game. Kevin should be getting 21 points a night every night. He has the sheer ability to do it. Why can't anybody expect more than 12 or 15 points a game? What's the problem with wanting him to be better? Same thing with Hunter. Why can't we expect him to be the premier defensive wing that we traded up for and drafted him out of Virginia as a defensive player of the freaking year and the national champion? But you got guards just rolling up on them, this layup line. That ain't cool to see Brogdon doing that multiple times or Tatum doing it multiple times. That ain't cool to see it. Is it? Is it? I'm just saying. Go watch the videos I did in regards to Hunter. The first one I did was where is it at? Oh, now I can't see it. False Expectations is the title of that video. I did that 3 weeks ago. And then most recently, Do You Not Want the Best of a Player? Go watch those two videos. Those are Hunter related videos to say, don't you want the number 4 draft pick in the draft to be one of the best players? And then I did a list of all of 30 years of number 4 draft picks and to say, do you not want him to be like one of these guys? Why not? We need it. He's a wing player. Look at all the other wings that are in the NBA that makes a difference on their teams. Why can't we have that here consistently? What's the problem of expecting that at a certain point? This is the point. He got the extension. He's here. We need him to be able to drop, to be able to have the ability to drop, to do what he did in that Miami series right now. We would have an elimination game tonight. Y'all know that, right? We should have an elimination game tonight, but that's all good. We'll see what happens tonight. Last thing, that Miami Bucks series, and I think I posted it. I'm not sure where I did post it at. Let me see. I don't. Maybe I didn't post it. So go look at the last play. I should have pulled it up and downloaded it and put it on the show tonight or this morning. What time is it? Oh wow, the sun's coming up. So rotations. No, defense matters. Defenses. Oh, I know where I posted it. I'm gonna see if I can read it real quick. There it is. There it is. Okay, so I'm gonna read this. I knew I posted this somewhere. Defense is part effort, yes. But as I've been saying for decades, there's also technique in knowing how to play defense. There's how to block out. There's calling out your switches, hedging. You can get around the switch. Don't allow them to switch and create a mismatch in the first freaking place, right? There's ways to do those things, and you got to be taught how to do them. So that way they're natural. When it actually happens, you can see it and do it. Knowing assignments, knowing where you are supposed to be. Switching and rotations have been terrible for the Atlanta Hawks for the last 5 seasons. We overhelp way too much. If you've seen any of my videos, read any of my posts, you know I talk about that every game. After the game, I bring it out. I show video. And it kills us. You see it in games, and if you don't watch the games, the stats tell you what you need to know. Points in the paint, second chance points. That's all rotations and switching. We got people coming down the lane, and you got the person right there, and they won't just slide over. They let the guy lay it up. Clint do it way too much himself. Brian Oliver said it the other night. You got to be able to move over. You got to be able to do it. Why isn't it natural? Isn't it obvious? He's about to get 2 points. What's going on? Watch the rotate, and I posted the video in this post. Watch the rotation in this last possession. I wonder if I could show it on the thing. I don't know. Watch this possession in this last possession of the Bucks game. Jimmy first. Jimmy moved up on Giannis. That caused Giannis to have to give up the ball. Then Vincent, after Middleton gets the ball. And then that last one by Strus. Now, Strus was moving over, anticipating the next pass, basically, and he gets over to the man who was going to get the ball, but since Strus got there, Allen, who got the ball from Middleton, couldn't pass it. And that was the pass that should have been the shot. But since he wasn't open, now Allen is being forced to drive, and then you got your last switch that comes up to prevent the shot. He shows by that time the clock runs out. Watch that. And also Strus didn't overhelp because he could have overhelped on Allen at that point. That also would have opened up that passing lane as well. But Strus came all the way over and defended that man that was open. Let me see if I could do it. Let's see if it pulls up. No, I don't think this is going to work. Y'all see that? That right there matters. Because when you have a coach that coaches and has always been defensive related, because the reason that the Heat, because they can't score barely anything, and Jimmy Buckets has been having to do what he's doing, mostly because they ain't been able to score. He's having to drop 56 points, 40 points, right? But they play defense. When you play defense, you can be in any game. And the Heat play defense, right? They hadn't had the best season. Again, they can't score with anything, but they stay in games because they can play defense. And then it's just whether or not somebody has that one good shot that goes in or out. Jimmy Butler is trying to get them back to a championship. Remember, a couple years ago, they were in the championship. And he did everything in that championship to try to beat the Lakers. He just couldn't do it. Y'all know the now famous meme, like he's out there doing all the Popeye's chicken sandwiches out there. He's just tired, right? You saw him last night on the floor. He's tired, but he's doing what he's got to do because he's the guy. Just like Trey the other night. He's the guy. By the way, just as a reminder, I did this all last night during the draft show. I had to do it. I'm going to do it once here, and then I'm going to get off of here.
And Hunter. And here's Young. Backtracks, 5-2. Young lets it go. And hits. Woo! Ice cold.
I played that like 17 times last night during the NFL draft show. No, I didn't. I did play it a couple times, though. So eventually it's a matter of if our Hawks could ever get to that level on the defensive side of just being able to switch on a decent basis, we'll be nearly unstoppable because, again, scoring has never been the problem for the Atlanta Hawks, right? Ever. I said Trey's first season as a rookie, we should have made the playoffs, but we didn't play at all defense. So I said, okay, throw that year out. Okay, but the next year, we got to play some defense because the guy who's in charge, that's supposed to be one of his things is teaching defense or defensive acumen or whatever you want to call it. Second season, no defense. Should have made the playoffs then. Defense matters. And if you're not teaching it, it shows. That final score, it shows. 3-point percentage by the other team, it shows. People just standing around, again, effort is part of it, but if you don't know where you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to be there and things of that nature, and it's not natural to you because you're not doing it in practice at all, you're not watching film, tape, you can't be doing it. How do we keep giving up 78 points in the paint? How do you keep giving up 45%, 50% from three? During the regular season 2022, there was way too many games where the other team literally was shooting 50% from three. That's crazy. They're getting 60, 70 points in the paint. That's crazy. 30 second chance points. That's crazy. Now, the fast break points, that's an issue. That's a whole team again. But that's another reason why we would lose all those leads. We lost 13 games this regular season. We had to lead 10 points or less. I've dictated all this plenty of times on previous shows, tweets, the whole 9 yards. If we ever get where we can have that defensive acumen to be like, you got to be here, you got to be there, and like programming from back in the day, if-then statements. If this happens, then you got to do this. If we can ever get to that level, we'll be unbeatable. And I feel that this offseason coming up, we're going to have that defensive teacher, and we're going to drill it. We're going to practice it. We're going to teach it. It matters. It matters that you're talking and letting people know where you're supposed to be all the time, not just in a quarter, not just in a half, but the whole game. Whether it be coming from the bench and over the players on the floor. That's where a veteran definitely helps if we had a veteran. We missed that this year. That's one reason we didn't do that well this year. We didn't have a veteran voice, someone older than all the other guys. You see what I'm saying? But just knowing how to play that defense, knowing, again, blocking out. Why can't we block out? Why don't we know where our man is on a shot? Why do we give up so many offensive rebounds and second chance points? That's not cool at a certain point. Is it? Again, I keep asking people, they don't ever answer the question. It's like, is this a good thing or a bad thing that people don't know where they're supposed to be? How is your back always turned to your man to allow the guy to get a layup? Hunter, why is your back turned to wherever it is where you just let Jaylen Brown just come do a dunk? I did that video. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick.
Tatum gets to the loose ball. Celtics down 5, 3.5 to go in the third. Tatum keeps.
That's not the one. Let me see if I can find it. I did this show the other day, so I still have this stuff up. So, Tatum.
The Hawks are 36 to 10. The Hawks are 36 to 10 in points in the paint. Who would have thought?
I'm trying to find it. I might not be able to find it. Maybe I did delete it by accident. I don't know. I don't see it now. I don't see it, but there's the one play where, again, Brown just cut in. Hunter's just over here. There's a couple of others where Hunter's just not where he's supposed to be. He's not on his man. Like, how are you just not on your man all the time? And I talk about this when I play basketball on Sundays sometimes. Even if I'm not in the post, if I have to switch out because I got somebody else that's in the post instead of me, I'm with my man. I'm not going to let my man back cut. I'm not letting my man get a passing lane to where he could try to shoot a three. I'm on my man to hold possession. That's what I got to do to make sure that my man don't score. That's my job. My man can't score. On a switch, if I have to switch on a guard, I'm going to do what I can to stay in front of that guard. But you know what I'm also going to do? I'm watching to see if we can re-switch back so there isn't a mismatch. And or I'm not allowing myself to get screened. I know how to get around the screen to where, one, I'm not going under a screen to where a guy has a wide open shot and just standing there. I don't care if a guy's trying to hold me. You know what I can do? I can really fight through that screen. I'm not just going to let him hold me. Or I'm going to push my guy into the other guy. Do what y'all got to do, but I'm not going to just let you shoot a wide open jumper every freaking time. Partially, that's effort, and then partially, that's knowing what's about to happen. You can avoid those screens half the time. There's ways to do it, but you got to know how to do it. You got to be taught. It matters. So that's all being said and done. I got to get out of here. It's getting later in the morning. I didn't plan to be. I actually was trying to just do 30 minutes technically, but subscribe to IMTN Worldwide Radio on YouTube. I appreciate the support. Watch last night's NFL draft show. We had John Harris out of Atlanta on the show last night to help out a little bit. Jordan wasn't able to get on the show live. He did call in later. Shout out to Nas. He called in a little bit later as well. We talked about, draft picks. We talked about defensive being drafted. We talked about some offense being drafted possibly as well. We talked about depth chart and everything like that. So we're going to have another draft show after the draft as well to go over who did get drafted. We'll show video of who got drafted and everything like that. So tune in for that. We're going to try to do a show probably this weekend to follow up whatever happens tonight for the Atlanta Hawks as well. We'll do a 2-hour Hawks show, hopefully. So tune into that. Make sure you're following on Instagram, IMTN Worldwide Radio on Instagram and Facebook. You can follow us again on Twitter. Let's see, there we go. Mine is Intellect ATL. Jordan's is Jordan 23 at ATL. Go check that out. And also the new website for IMTN Worldwide Radio, which is right here. It's brand new. I haven't really tinkered with it too much, but it's up and running. I'm going to be putting my articles on there that I've written over the years as well. All the podcasts will be on there. I do plan to upload the podcast from Bob Rathman and Steve Holman pretty soon, so be looking out for that. But you can watch the show. They were both on live. This was the first time we actually had them on the live show, so that was pretty exciting. They took time out of their busy schedules to be able to do that, so that was really cool. Of course, myself and Jordan, well, I've probably talked to them more than Jordan to an extent, but, over the years, being able to meet Bob, meet Steve, talk to them, they wanting to talk, and chat, things of that nature, having discussions about Hawks basketball, whether it be at the game itself or online or whatever, is always a pleasure. Again, they're veterans. They know what they're talking about. They love the Atlanta Hawks. It's going to be so cool to have both of them be able to see a championship happen here in Atlanta. It's going to be really, really cool because they deserve to see that happen. I hope it happens soon. That being said, I'll talk to y'all later, and y'all have a good rest of the day. Let's see if the Hawks can get that Game 6 and take it to Game 7. And just in case y'all forgot.
And Hunter. And here's Young. Backtracks. 5 to shoot. Young lets it go. And hits. Woo! Ice cold.
Let's see if we can get a little bit more of that tonight. Y'all take care.